Hello, this is Sudhir Kumar Dwivedi, Assistant Professor of Law from GemTech School of Law, Greater Noida. The topic for today's lecture is writ and its structure under the subject drafting, pleading, and conveyancing. So first of all, let's see what is the meaning of writ. So, writ is a petition. In its general connotation, means a petition filed before the competent court having prerogative power. It resembled the extraordinary authority of the crown or court. So, writ is considered as a prerogative power when some special and inherited right of the peoples are infringed, then the government, by the government or by the its official, then we can approach directly to some institution against such violation, and this power is known as a prerogative power. So writ is a mode by which we can approach directly to the in India to the Supreme Court or High Court when such government or official has violated some right which has been stipulated by the Constitution of India. In the common laws of English, this term is well settled as a prerogative writ, which means a writ especially associated with the king. It resembled the extraordinary authority of the crown or court. In India, it is the Supreme Court and High Court is the institution where we can directly approach for the violation of certain right. Those rights are known as a fundamental right through the writ jurisdiction. Now let's try to understand what type of the writs are there. In India there are generally 5 types of writs. First of all, we will see the writ of habeas corpus. The writ of habeas corpus is a writ requiring the body of a person to be brought before a judge or court. In other words, it can be said that it is a progressive process for securing the liberty of the subject, which affords an effective means of immediate release from unlawful, unjustifiable detention, whether in prison or in private custody. So, it is a, you can say, writ by which if someone has been in custody and that custody is unlawful, and whether such custody is in prison or in private custody, then such writ may be issued by the High Court or the Supreme Court to present the body of the that particular person who has been arrested unlawfully. The High Courts and the Supreme Court have got a very wide power of protecting the liberty of subjects under Article 226 and Article 32 respectively of the Constitution. These powers are to be exercised on certain fixed judicial principle and not in an arbitrary manner. I am not going in detail because here I am not concerned about the detail of the writ of habeas corpus. I am just giving a concept to understand the what is a writ of habeas corpus, because our focus under this subject will be on the structure of the writ. So it can be said uh, an application for writ of habeas corpus may be made by any person interested in the liberty of the person who has been arrested. Without unreasonable delay, he should be presented before the court. And however, this writ must be supported by an affidavit of the petitioner. Ordinarily, the rule of nisi to show cause is issued by the court in the first instance. It is not open to court to go behind the reason given by the government for the detention, and it must see the motive of the impugned law and bona fide of the government. So, this all about the writ of habeas corpus. Let's see writ of mandamus. It is also a prerogative writ of a most extensive remedial nature. The Supreme Court and the High Court have power respectively under Article 32 and Article 2 to 6 of the Indian Constitution to issue this writ in the form of a command directing any person holding the public office, kindly focus on the word public office, under the government or any statutory body or corporation, or to an inferior court exercising judicial or quasi-judicial function to do a particular act pertaining to his office or duty, and which the court issuing the writ considers to be the right of the petitioner and is in the interest of justice. So it can be sued, this writ can be sued against any person who is holding the public office or under the government, any statutory body, any corporation, even against the inferior court exercising its judicial or the quasi-judicial function. It is, and when it will be sued, it is issued only when there is a specific legal right but not a specific legal remedy to enforce that right. In that case, this writ will be sued. Mandamus will not be sued when any alternative remedy by way of appeal or any other remedy under any other statute is available. Article 32 is limited to the enforcement of fundamental right of part 3 of the Constitution only. The next writ is the writ of certiorari. Some people say it certiorari. It's a certiorari writ. The writ of certiorari may be issued to any judge, magistrate, or a body of person or authority vested with the judicial or quasi-judicial functions. An order of this writ directing the aforesaid authorities and requiring them to transmit the record of the proceeding in any cause or matter to the High Court to be dealt with there. It may be issued when the decision complained is of an authority having, you can say, the legal duty to act judicially or quasi-judicially, and the authority has either no jurisdiction or there is an excess of jurisdiction. Mainly it is issued for the quashing decisions only. So this is regarding the writ of certiorari. Now let's see what is the writ of provision. The writ of provision is an order directed to an inferior court or tribunal forbidding such court or tribunal from continuing with the proceeding of any cause or matter. It is an appropriate writ to a tribunal which threatens to assume or assumes a jurisdiction not vested in it, so long as there is something in the proceeding left to prohibit. The difference between the writ of provision and certiorari is that the former is issued to restrain a tribunal from doing an act before it is actually done, while the latter may be issued during the course of the proceeding of an act and even after the act is done and the proceeding is concluded. Both can be sued to the person or body or tribunal if charged with judicial or quasi-judicial duties. Now let's see writ of quo warranto. It is a writ questioning a right of a person holding an office of a public nature and direct him to so an authority under which he is holding such office or exercising the right. In older days, it lay against the crown who claimed or franchisees or liberty for holding an inquiry by what authority he support his claim. Now it may be issued any person holding the office of a public nature on the application of person without alleging the violation of any specific right. Now let's see what will be the structure of this writ when we are going to file a writ. I have taken here an example, a writ of mandamus. So let's see what will be the structure of the writ. First of all, we will mention that in the matter of so and so, son of so and so, residence, then the petitioner versus municipal corporation. I have taken here the example of municipal corporation, Delhi, through its commissioner as a respondent, and the detail of the office of the this municipal corporation should be given. Then it will start like that. This regarding this, then it will start like that. A writ petition under Article 2 to 6 of the Constitution of India for issuance of prorogative writ of mandamus or any other appropriate writ. So if you are confirmed about the such writ, then you mention that you are asking for this writ, or you can plea alternatively that the court may issue any other writ. So it will start like that. Respectfully saith that the petitioner is a citizen of India residing so and so place, and the respondent is Municipal Corporation of Delhi having their office at so and so place. Then you will give the brief facts parawise. Like here I have taken the example of something regarding the appointment of a person. So here the second para will be that the petitioner is aggrieved by the illegal appointment of daily wages worker by MCD office in a defiance of notification number so and so dated 1st February 2014, which requires the MCD to appoint only those persons as a daily wage worker who are below the age of 30 years as an so and so date. The said notification was issued after it was duly approved. So next you will mention that the petitioner is of 27 years. Kindly keep in mind he has stated in the first para that the whatever the notification of the municipal corporation was that the person who is below the 30 years will be appointed as a daily wages worker. Now here he is giving the detail about himself, how the cause of action is going to be raised, that the petitioner is of 27 years of the age and was working as a daily wages worker from so and so date, and his service was terminated without notice or without any prior intimation, and the petition, and then he is going to then you can explain if it is, I am just giving an example, that during his service he worked very well, he worked his all done in time, and then you will say if any other person has been appointed in violation of that notification, then that will be mentioned. Like here I have mentioned that the respondent has appointed Sri so and so 3 person, like here I have taken Sri Ompal, Ram and Maya in the defiance of the said notification at so and so date, and all 3 person above named is above the 3 years. So it is prima facie it is shown here that it is in the appointment of these three person is in the violation of the notification. After that it will be mentioned like that the about named person were appointed in utter disregard to the notification. The respondent, however, removed the petitioner from the service although the petitioner met with all the requirements. That the petitioner made the representation to the respondent white letter so and so date and also met commissioner in person and apprised them of his grievance. However, nothing materialized, means nothing concrete action has been taken. So then he will explain like if that in spite of his oral and written representation to the respondent have not taken an appropriate action, rather they keep silence, then that the petitioner have thus approached this honorable court on amongst other the following grounds. Then after this, then what are the grounds will be mentioned. So grounds is like that because the cause of action, because the action of the respondent is contrary to the law and good conscience. uh, Contrary to the law because the notification was that the person who is below the 30 years will be appointed as a daily wages worker, and here the contention is that all the three who were appointed all are above the 30 years, and the person and the petitioner has been removed without any prior information and notice, and his age is 27 years. So next will be like that because the action of the respondent is arbitrary, unreasonable and irrational and unconstitutional. The third ground will be that because respondent have no right to play with the career of the petitioner. Then the other ground is that because the petitioner was removed from the job in spite of the fact that he was below the age and fulfilled all requirement, as he was already working and he was removed without any information and notice. And then the last ground may be then the other ground may be because respondent appointed Sri so and so, means the three person who have been appointed on so and so date. And then the next ground that because of the action of the respondent is bad in law, obviously he is not acted as per law. Then that the next ground may be that the petitioner grabs leave of this honorable court to add name alter the grounds raised in this petition. After that, Sri Om, it will be mentioned like that Sri Om Pal and so person who were appointed, despite of being over age, not meeting the requirement of the notification of so and so date, and it further means here the thing will be regarding the cause of action. Then when the cause of action arise, the first cause of action arise when they were appointed. It further arose when the representation were made to the respondent orally and in writing on so and so date. The cause of action further arose when the respondent did not act in spite of the fact having brought to their notice, and the cause of action is continuing one. Means when the cause of action arise, first arise when this notification was issued, then when these three persons were appointed against the rule, then he was removed without notice and information. Then when he made his representation before the authorities, and it is still continuing because has been removed from the job, and the cause of action is continuing. After that, the next para will be that the cause of action in present case arose on this date when the respondent brought out the notification, as I have already discussed. It further arises when the petitioner was removed from his office. I have already discussed these things. When on what date the cause of action arose. Next will be that the petitioner has no other alternative efficacious remedy except to approach this honorable court by way of writ petition. Then the next para will be that the petitioner has not filed any other similar writ petition either before this honorable court or before the Supreme Court of India. After that, next para will be that there has been no undue delay in filing of this petition, and then that this honorable court has territorial jurisdiction to entertain the writ petition and that regarding the court fee. So the last 10 point number 10 and 11 will be regarding the territorial jurisdiction and then the court fee. After that, there will be a prayer clause, and in prayer clause the prayer should be very specific and very clear, like here, that the petitioner most humbly prays that this honorable court may be pleased to issue appropriate writ in the nature of mandamus or any other appropriate writ directing the respondents to cancel the illegal appointment made in this regard of the notification number so and so of so and so date, and issue necessary direction to appointment of petitioner, and issue any other further orders or directions as this honorable court may deem fit and appropriate on the facts and circumstances of the case. For this act of kindness, the petitioner above named shall ever pray. Then there will be place, date, petitioner sign through advocate, then sign of advocate, and then it is important to note that this petition will be supported by an affidavit. This is all about the structure of the writ, of how the writ is filed. Here I have taken the example of mandamus. It will be, and the same structure will be for other writs. The ground will change. It depends on the writ. So the ground will change. Here I have taken the example of mandamus. That's all about the writs and its structure. Thank you.